Is that what your client wants? I'm yet to have a coach answer that question when I say it to them. They'll say something like, well, AI can't do this. And I always respond to that with, is that what your client consistently wants? 100% of the time, the coach has responded with, yeah, but that's not coaching technique. Not what I asked.
There's a question I've been sitting with since New York. It's a small question. The kind that sounds almost too simple to say out loud. But the longer I hold it, the more it opens up. The question is this: who is the coaching relationship actually for? We say the client. We build entire frameworks around the client. We have our methodologies, our models, our carefully cultivated presence. And yet, the moment AI enters the picture, the conversation keeps circling back to the coach. What does this mean for us? What does this mean for our presence, our practice, our irreplaceability? And I keep wondering, shouldn't the question be, does it help the client?
This is The Edge of Human and AI, a Viva la Coaching podcast. We sit right where coaching meets AI. And we're not afraid to ask the uncomfortable questions. We built this show because the coaching landscape is being reshaped by intelligent systems, and the organizations, leaders, and companies shaping that future deserve honest conversations. I'm your host, Rebecca Rutschman. Each week, we'll help you understand how AI is transforming coaching. We discuss leadership development and human growth across organizations. We will help you navigate the ethical and strategic decisions that come with bringing AI into the coaching space. You'll hear from researchers, innovators, and industry leaders, as well as experts who are reimagining what's possible. Whether you're navigating AI for the first time or already building with it, this is where you belong. Follow us now and join us at vivalacoaching.com. Come stand with us at the edge.
My guest today has been asking that question for 29 years. Jonathan Reitz is one of those humans who truly understand change and how to pivot. He studied electrical engineering, then he did stand-up comedy. I didn't know that. Then radio, then television news, and then somewhere in the middle of all that beautiful chaos, he found coaching. Or maybe coaching found him. 29 years later, he's one of the most highly credentialed and renowned coaches. In this conversation, we go to some unexpected places. I won't spoil what happened, but I will say this. It is not every day that a 29-year coaching veteran tells you he has never encountered a concept before, even takes a screenshot to mark that moment, and asks you to spell it out so he can bring it to his community. So this is an episode worth saving and sharing. So, welcome, Jonathan. It's fantastic to have you on this podcast straight after your holidays.
Literally my first appointment back.
So, let's get right into it. You've had one of the most unexpected journeys into coaching that I know of. So, maybe you want to tell us a little bit about that.
My first job after college, by the way, I studied electrical engineering in college. My first job after college, I spent a bunch of time, I tried to make it in stand-up comedy, and realized that late nights and traveling from town to town and all of that was not a good life for me. And I was funny, but I wasn't that funny, is really what it came down to. But that did lead into radio broadcasting, and I still am a recovering radio broadcaster, which led into television. I did morning news on a bunch of TV stations across the United States. And then that led into coaching, because one thing that I don't think I'm talking completely out of school as I say this, Rebecca, but one thing that teams in television news have in common is that they are dysfunctional. My general manager at a television station in Tulsa, Oklahoma, brought in a coach to work with us. And they took a bunch of us to a 3-day offsite meeting. And this guy, in 45 minutes on the first morning of the first day of this 3-day session, got us working together in a way that I'd never seen. And I leaned over to somebody and said, I don't know what that guy is doing, but I think I need to learn how to do that. That might be what I do with the rest of my life. And I went up to him at the break. His name was Steve. I said, hey, Steve, what is this? I've never seen anything like this. And he said, well, I'm a coach. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to learn to do this. How do I do that? And he kind of laughed and said, I could help you. And that guy became my first mentor coach. And that was in 1997. And I think
Wow.
I think I have coached. No, I can say this confidently. The days that I have not coached are far fewer since then than the days I have coached, like 1,000 to 1, because it just kind of took over. So that was a fun little environment. And I do think that the engineering and the television world have challenged me to think creatively about what I'm doing at any time. And that has definitely played over into the coaching world. So that's the 1-minute version.
And how to constantly pivot, no?
Yes. Quite honestly, this is funny you say that, because I also got an adult ADHD diagnosis just about exactly 2 years ago. And one of the big realizations from that moment was that's why pivoting comes easily to me. Is that neurodiversity, that's a strength of that neurodiverse brain that I have, is pivots don't scare me. And I think that's the first of many lessons that is taught into coaching. And there's one specifically about AI in coaching that I think is really important that comes from that as well. But the pivots happen pretty naturally for me. And that's an unusual skill in the world, I think. So it's interesting that you tossed that in as we were wrapping up that part of the story.
Because it's also interesting because looking into the future and what lies ahead for us is a lot of change, which means a lot of pivoting. So maybe people like you are made for the future or ready for the future. Yeah.
I think there's something to be said for talking about that in a mixed group. One of the things that I've been paying attention to, what happened at the NYU Summit, what happened the next week at the ICF conference in Germany. This has also happened at a couple of events in India. What I think is interesting about these specific events is they're not just coach events. They're coaching and HR leaders and university researchers. It's a much more diverse conversation. And I would throw that into that diversity conversation. Hey, I think there's things we can learn from a neurodiverse community about how to handle some of these things. I have become even more convinced in the last few years that a homogeneous conversation is nearly useless.
Yeah.
And a heterogeneous conversation, and in this particular case, we need researchers, we need education leaders, we need HR leaders, we need corporate advocates, we need coaches, we need other interdisciplinary specialists. We've got to get that group into the room. And that's where the way forward is going to come, it seems to me. And I think intentionally choosing some neurodiversity to include in that conversation is an interesting strategy that we're not really talking about.
But it might be really necessary if we look forward and if we look at the technology leaders are also part of a spectrum on the in the group of neurodiverse people. So it's interesting to see where this is headed.
Definitely.
So you work with both leaders and coaches.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you see as the core difference between a manager who gives good feedback and a leader who genuinely develops people, especially in that new age of AI?
I think there's two things. Number one, a leader always has a vision for where they're going. And the best leaders have that vision for where they're going and an intentional mindset around taking other people with them as they go toward that vision. I think about, I'm American, and that's one of the differences in the political spectrum in America over the last 15 years, is that America, up to a certain point, was all about, hey, here's where we're going, and all are welcome. It's not really that way anymore. And that, to me, is a loss of leadership, because that vision, well, the vision is just as clear, but the intention to take people with you to the vision is not as clear in that case. That's a political situation. But you think about that in a lot of business situations as well. The highest level leader may have a vision, but what is often missing is how committed am I to taking other people with me toward that vision? And what can I do with technology to make that even easier? And I think if you start looking at coaching as a skill set or as a way of life, as a leadership strategy, and technology as a complement to that, this idea of taking people with us as we move toward a vision really does take on a meaningful life. And I think technology is a lot less scary if we're in that situation. If we come into things with the mindset of, hey, we're going here and we want you to come along, and here's all the tools we've got available to us to make sure that you get there as smoothly and as quickly as possible. All the good things come from that mindset, in my opinion. And managers that just offer good feedback, I think it's an open question whether there's a vision there. I think there's an open question also whether there's any commitment to take people along and develop them on the way to that particular vision. And that's tough. That's a very different reality for people on the ground, and often I think separates a good organization from a great one.
And why do you think it's less scary using AI in that path?
Because we're in it together.
That's a good one.
It's not a one-to-one, hey, this AI tool is coming to replace my job. If you're heading toward a vision and bringing people along, there's an ability to look at the other people that are on the journey with you and say, you know what, I don't get it either, but we're going to figure this out. Mm-hmm. And in the manager that focuses on feedback of any type, I'm not sure that permission to look at the people around you actually exists in the same way that it does in that vision-based leadership where, hey, the more people we can take with us, the better. Tone, the culture, the attitude is just completely different. And I think because of that, unknowns in general, AI in particular, are way less scary.
Just popped something up for me that I heard from some of the leaders, that they quite often don't have enough time in their schedule to play around with all the beautiful AI tools that their teams are using, and they feel quite often left behind. So in this situation, the team actually has more experience in using AI than some of the leaders, and some of them feel left behind. But if you're a good leader and you're in good contact with your team, this is where the good leader probably comes in. You can try to be on the same level and listen to your teams as well and see what they're doing with it and how this is affecting the team. So how has your coaching leaders changed with the arrival of AI and the topics that they bring into coaching sessions?
Humility has become way more important. This is something I was thinking about while I was on holiday these past couple of weeks. I've been sitting on the beach. Is of the coaching engagements that I've had over the last 3 years, I've had just under 35 clients. I've had 33 clients over the last one-on-one coaching clients over the last 3 years. And I often do this. I've never done this quite this directly, but I separate them into wild, amazing successes and then the ones that were okay. I don't tend to let an engagement that is, if I get 2 sessions in and I realize that an engagement is completely off the rails, I end it and offer to help them find a different coach. I don't have any in the last 3 years that I can point to and go, well, that was a disaster. So that's why I have just those 3 categories: is okay successes, and then the wild over the top ones. And the thing that is 100% common to that top group is they are humble in a way that I don't remember seeing quite so obviously in previous seasons. Now, I might be remembering this incorrectly, but I don't think so. I think there's a willingness to say, you know what, I don't know. Or to say, wow, that didn't go how I thought it was going to go. I think about a moment that you and I had with our friend Nikki Terblanche when we were working on the 3 chatbot survey, where Nikki really taught me something in that moment. And I've seen this pretty regularly in the most effective leaders, where we got the data back and it wasn't, and you remember this moment, it wasn't what we thought it was going to be. Yeah. Our hypothesis turned out to not be proven. And Nikki immediately got all excited. You remember? He was like, "Oh, this is great! We're going to learn some things here." And that moment, I think AI makes all kinds of possible in ways that it hasn't been quite so much before. So, if you're a coach and you're thinking about the leaders that you really want to work with, who are the leaders that, when they're confronted by something that surprises them, are going to go, "Oh boy, now we get to learn some things that we didn't know before"? Because in the AI age, I think that occurrence is going to be way more common than it ever has been before. And maybe that's a differentiator.
Maybe it brings us all on a same level, because nobody has now 20 years of experience in doing this or that, but we're all like in it together, like you said before.
Taking that even one step further, I think a lot of the universal human questions, the things that have always defined humanity, what is my purpose? Where do I belong? How do I find meaning in my life? I don't think those questions have gone away, but we've got a whole different toolkit for discovering those answers. And that's exciting to me. I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe the internet did this in the internet boom in the late 90s and early 2000s. Maybe the internet did that. Certainly the printing press did that. Seriously, that's how big I think this is, especially when we start focusing on those human universal questions and coming into it with that attitude of, oh boy, I get to learn now. I get excited about that.
Yeah, but some don't like that mirror.
It does take a lot more emotional and physical energy.
And courage.
Again, there's the pivot thing for me. I appreciate you saying that, because I have a coach friend, a coach in Australia, a guy named Mel Liao, who his entire coaching platform is coaching people to be more brave. He's brilliant at it. He's absolutely brilliant at it. And I find myself going, wow, it never even occurs to me to ask about that because of my neurodiversity. But I need people like you or like Mel to say, hey, you know what? That takes some significant courage, because those questions don't even occur to me. And that plays back into, we're all coming back to humility again. I, as a leader, have to be able to say, you know what, Rebecca, that doesn't occur to me. I'm so glad you said that. In this technological age, I think we need even more of that. AI is not eliminating that. It's making it more important to be able to step back and say, wow, I didn't know. And maybe even I didn't know that I didn't know.
Taking it even to the next level. That brings me into the third voice question that I have. You quite often describe AI as the third voice that we have in the room. So what does that actually feel like for a client in your experience?
It's interesting to me that clients are a lot more comfortable with that third voice by default. Now, I'm making a Jonathan-specific observation here. Your experience may vary. My experience, though, has been that clients are much more comfortable with that third voice than coaches are. And I think that's something we have to pay attention to. Client-centered coaching in the age of AI does not mean AI can't do what I can do, says the coach. Let's just go on the record and say that's probably true, that AI can't do what a human coach can do. But you know what else is also true? Is that clients are getting meaningful experiences from using AI tools. They're having breakthroughs. Coaches keep talking to me about how, well, you know, AI can't hold the silence like I can. Okay. Is that what your client wants? I'm yet to have a coach answer that question when I say it to them. They'll say something like, well, AI can't do this. And I always respond to that with, is that what your client consistently wants? And I'm going to call coaches out here. So if I offend you as you listen to me say this, good. Coaches 100% of the time over the last year, because I started doing this after the Berlin Workforce Summit last year. Coaches would say, AI can't do this. And I respond immediately with, yeah, but is that what your clients ask for from you? No coach has ever said to me back, oh gosh, I don't know. 100% of the time, the coach has responded with, yeah, but that's not coaching technique. Not what I asked. What does the client want from the situation? I think coaches have to learn in this age of AI. Here's the coach educator in me coming out. Coaches have to learn in this age of AI how to do an even better job by helping the client identify what they really want from the engagement. That, I think, is the big growing edge for coaches in 2026 heading into 2027. It's not how to hold silence better or to ask fewer, more targeted, open-ended questions. It's not any of that. It's, hey, what does your client want from this session? Because AI is already doing that. And if you actually have a skill set that AI doesn't have, you got to start on an equal playing field. And that starts with, okay, client, what do you really want? Now I think we're getting into some areas where human coaching absolutely has to be the leading edge.
But we always claimed that coaching is a human-centered profession. That's what I learned 17 years back, that it's human-centered. But like, as you say, the question is, has it always been human-centered? And through AI, maybe we're entering an era where this is actually
I would
now
love
happening.
that if that were the case. I would love to hear stories from coaches where the client consistently surprised the coach talking about what they wanted from the session. I think that's so healthy on a couple of different levels. I mean, number one, it means the client is free to say to the coach, hey, this is what matters to me in this moment. And B, the coach is able to say, wow, that didn't go where I thought it would go. And then C, new possibilities are on the table because both coach and client are working from a blank piece of paper. That's what gets me excited about this.
And on eye level.
Yeah.
Because it's then the humility also of the coach. Like what we discussed before about the leaders experiencing that humility now, I think needs to go into that conversation too.
And I love that eye level conversation. That's a great point. I'm 2 meters tall. Eye level requires something from me to meet most clients at eye level. And that's a great visual reminder. That's going in my journal tonight, I promise you.
That's what I learned in my coach education too. You have to meet your client eye level. Maybe not from the height. I'm short. I'm only 165. Yes. I don't have that.
But
I have to go on my tippy toes.
Eye level, that's such a good metaphor. I'll tell you, in 29 years of coaching and coach education, I've never heard that description till today.
Oh, okay.
I love what that implies for the coach, because one of the foundational pieces of the coaching world is that if coach and client are at eye level, it's not the client that moves to adapt to the coach. It's the coach that moves to adapt to the client.
They can't.
So that's a question. That's the coach's humility coming into this.
And you love German. I can tell you the German word for it.
I would like it.
It's Augen, Eye, Höhe, height. Yeah.
Augenhöhe.
So we call it Augenhöhe. Yeah, it's a very popular concept. I mean, it's what we usually learn in most of the coach education.
And this is a great example why, as the world continues to get smaller, and AI will only accelerate that, cultural sensitivity, cultural understanding is only going to become more important. That idea of Augenhöhe, did I say it right?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, it's the opposite of an Übermensch.
Yes, and that's I like continuums and things like that. I could see putting Augenhöhe on one end and Übermensch on the other end, and maybe there's an AI tool that helps you understand how you're behaving on that continuum over the course of your coaching conversations, because I think that would accelerate coach development in some really interesting ways.
Yeah, and as language is important, Augenhöhe would be in the middle.
Oh, okay.
Because we have the Übermensch on that side, and Augenhöhe would be in the middle. And I don't know how you would now say to the very left-hand side when someone is below you, your servant, or someone else. That would be probably then on the other side of the spectrum there.
I'm glad you brought that up, because in the AI world, I'm going to say something. Leaders are going to be tempted to turn the podcast off based on what I'm about to say. Please don't. Okay? We're going somewhere useful here. I've never liked the idea of servant leadership. I've never liked the concept. I understand the concept. The leader serves the people that are following them. I understand that. And I like the image of that. What I don't like is the implied hierarchy of servant leadership.
Yeah. Because then you don't have the Augenhöhe.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And the Augenhöhe is much more powerful, in my opinion, than servant leadership. And if AI in coaching is anything, it's an equalizer. So Augenhöhe becomes even more important over time.
I can see you're going to use this word now continuously.
Oh, this is, in fact, I'm taking a screenshot of us on the screen right now so I can memorialize, hey, this is where this term came from. This is the moment I learned this term. So
very nice. I'm happy you learned something now, even in this podcast. Yes.
Yeah. So hopefully people who are listening have learned something too. And I have a special gift for someone who comments on a LinkedIn post of mine using the word Augenhöhe in the future. So just that's it.
That's a challenge here. Okay.
Challenge, temptation.
Yeah,
only people who listen closely to the podcast will get.
Very good. So if we keep that word Augenhöhe there, so when we use AI in our coaching, with our clients as the coach as well, using it like for maybe before, in the middle. So how can we keep that momentum going with the client, integrating AI into our complete conversations?
I'm going to mention two things that have really stayed with me from the NYU conference a couple of weeks ago. The first is, how confident are we that we know what good AI-enhanced coaching looks like? I think about the ultimate lens for me is how satisfied is the client, followed very closely by how much did the client learn about themselves in the coaching engagement. That to me is one of the things that we coaches uniquely can deliver, is we can help build accurate self-regard in our client. I personally think that might be the thing that coaches are most uniquely set up to deliver, is growth in accurate self-regard. So I actually understand myself as I actually am because of coaching. How does AI help with that? And I think that's a really interesting question that gets to, what does good partnership between AI and coaches and clients actually look like? Well, did we deliver what they came for? Shocking to me how many coaching conversations don't or can't. And what did the client learn about themselves? So that I found myself thinking about that a lot coming out of NYU. Now, the other thing I think is notable, this comes from a moment during the last panel of the conference. I was sitting next to Vikram from Shimmer, who's an ADHD coach environment. I said to him in the course of that moment, I said, hey, I just got an ADHD diagnosis a couple of years ago, about 2 years ago, and I waited more than 18 months before I started a prescription. And he went, oh, why? And I said, well, I'm going to be curious about your thoughts about this as it comes to your AI tools. I said, my therapist said to me, it will be to your advantage if you delay the prescription until you've worked on habits and behaviors of your own, so that the prescription can enhance those instead of just masking the symptom. Rebecca, I'm so grateful for that comment. And it has worked. It was, quite honestly, it was awful. It was really hard work. It was emotionally draining. The roller coaster was like this. But now that I'm through that, it's much better. I wonder about that same kind of attitude with coaching and AI, where we build some habits for coaching early without AI, and then invite AI in to enhance the good habits. Not to cover the gaps, because that can happen. That's not lasting change if we're just covering the gaps. That's what I was concerned about with this prescription thing, is I didn't want to just cover my gaps. I wanted to actually change. I wanted to turn this into a superpower. So I knew I had to learn some different behaviors foundationally and then have the prescription enhance it. And I'm wondering about that moment with Vikram has made me think about that really carefully, saying, hey, okay, as a coach, how can I operate on that? How can I do something early in an engagement that builds new, healthy, powerful habits and then multiply that by introducing an AI tool. That's the attitude I'm going into it. That's my second half of 2026 attitude about how I'm going to explore this coaching AI partnership to better serve clients. And the other thing I'll throw out just as a last note is, I think when you talk about that way, clients get it. All of a sudden, clients go, "Oh, well, it's clear on what my coaching's for. It's equally clear on what the use of this AI tool would be for. Great, let's do this." There's a clarity that is tangible. So I don't know. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts about that framework as I've thrown it out now.
I like that actually not bringing AI too early into the room, to base it actually on a good foundation that you already built. What I also was just thinking is, from the perspective of the coach training, maybe similar, that we first need to build the good human skills and habits. And then we need to add, learning about the technology on top of that. But if we do it too early, we might give a too easy path for people, so they can't learn the basics, the foundations that we need. Because we have a lot of discussions lately also around, there are a lot of tools out there that coaches can use where, I'm not going to say names, but there is a platform where you then get prompts from the platform during a coaching session on what the next good question would be. So I wonder, with coaches that don't have yet the experience, if this is going to take away learning opportunities for them. It might help the client in a certain way, but why would you want that? Then you can just talk to an AI. That was my thinking.
I think that's exactly right. How much concern do we have in the industry right now about what is going to happen to the human coaches, and then by extension, what needs to happen to the human coach's skill set as AI coaches get better and better? In the time that you and I have known each other, if there's one topic you and I have talked about more than anything else, it's probably, wow, the AI coaches are really improving.
Yeah.
And every day they are the worst they're ever going to be again. So, okay, human coaches, are you improving at the same rate? I think that's the only part of this that makes me go, oh, crap.
And then there's something else interesting in there, but which I'm just going to throw in for you. I know you just need little pieces. That you once mentioned something around that building in AI or AI tools, that it actually really helps you to grow too, because you have to put a lot of thinking in there.
Here's Jonathan's opinion as of the middle of 2026. This and $7 if you live in the US, €5 if you live in Europe will get you a cup of coffee. This is worth nothing other than my own opinion. I'll just throw it out there. I think the thing over the next 18 months that we're going to see a lot of really effective coaches do is they're going to have a toolkit of AI agents that are designed for very specific purposes inside of your coaching practice. It might be a reflective partner, where the coach steps back and makes discoveries about themselves. And then the reflective partner continues into, how does this translate into more and better outcomes for my client? And I said that way on purpose, more and better. That's the underlying theme of all of this, more and better outcomes for the client. There might be an in-between session toolkit. I don't love the idea of a tool that's in the middle of a coaching session with me and making suggestions about how I might coach them, because I don't want to outsource my neurological engagement to the AI tool. That's a guiding tool that I think is really helpful for all of these kinds of things. Is, does the tool help you enhance engage neurologically more deeply, or are you just outsourcing stuff?
Exactly.
I want to engage. Now, there's onboarding, there's post-session surveys. There's all those kinds of things. And every coach will have to figure out, hey, what do I need in my toolkit? And internal coaching cultures are going to be completely different than external coaching cultures. All of that adds up as well. I think that's going to be fun to see what really causes clients to engage over the next season, because that's ultimately the question. What helps us get to more and better outcomes for clients? And that starts with what causes the client to engage more deeply in coaching. I'll just use one very quick example. years ago, I put together a Jonathan bot that sounded pretty accurate about how I sound, had a lot of my coaching mannerisms, used the model that I prefer to use pretty well. None of my clients cared because just having Jonathan available on demand really didn't meet a need that they were actually feeling. Nobody cared. But once I started tailoring that, and this thing was an uncanny representation of me. My wife was like, holy cow, this thing sounds just like you. This is amazing. Nobody cared. So just a replication of Jonathan, nobody cares. But Jonathan bot for a specific purpose, very different encounter. So what problem are you solving? That's what's going to inform the toolkit that coaches have.
And building that also helps you really reflect on what you're actually doing. Like we just finished, we just had the first graduates now from our AI coaching experience designer course, which you're also part of. And what I heard from the first two handing in their submissions is like, wow, I had no idea how hard this would be, how deep I had to go and what am I actually doing there? Recognizing their own patterns, their own methods, frameworks that they're using, and then trying to make that work in an AI tool was really difficult for them and a great opportunity to grow. How was it for you?
The nuance of, okay, in this moment, what options would I come up with? There was two parts for me. What options would I come up with in a moment like this? That part was incredibly hard because I kept thinking about all the various factors that would influence what I would come up with. The second part was, once I was satisfied with the list, which option would I choose? That part was only kind of hard because I had done a bunch of the work in the brainstorming piece. And I realized how much of my brain actually operates that way. It's such an ADHD parallel to think that way. And the behavior, when I talked about working with my counselor about identifying the habits, the habit I had to build was not stopping after the brainstorming, but to actually take the list that I had brainstormed and then pick the one I was flying by the seat of my pants I got a list. I'm like, okay, I can do these. No, that's not how Jonathan is most effective. Jonathan is most effective with both parts of that. So it really, from my own accurate self-regard, the process of building out the bot reinforced how important that learning was, but it also made me step back and say, wow, I don't give this enough serious attention on a consistent and regular basis. So maybe this isn't a habit yet. And even if it is, how do I consistently set my bot up so that it follows an approach like this? And then how do I do it with the economy of words that today's prompting requires? If I can do it, you know this about me, and people that are listening to this podcast are getting this sense right now. I don't believe in not using 10,000 words, even though often 100 words would do. So that editing, that self-editing is really hard for me. And that also showed up. Mirroring, trusting the mirroring, mirroring what I'm actually doing, trusting the mirroring, and then being economical with energy, effort, and words. Yeah, there's all that going on in building that toolkit. And if you're going to accurately represent yourself in these tools, that kind of thing has to happen.
And it's a lot of work.
For sure.
Most people never expected it to be that hard. I still remember one of the participants going like, wow, why didn't nobody ever tell me it's not just about prompting, just writing like 3-4 sentences and that's it. It's a whole big process in that. And there's humility now for what we've been doing for years, like Nikki, myself, Olivier, some others in the space working in that area. I think finally people realize how hard that is.
It is the thing, and this I think is a really good illustration of the coaching world broadly, but in this specific environment, it's especially true, is yes, there is science to it. There are observable things that you must follow because the world works that way. But there's also an art to it that I think that eludes an awful lot of people. And myself included. Like I say, I'm a guy of German heritage who studied electrical engineering. The science part comes pretty easy for me. When I can slow down long enough to focus on the art, I feel like I can make art, but it's not a guarantee. And that staying in that space is really hard and can be really exhausting. So yeah, well done on bringing that to life. I think that's an important lesson for the industry, coaching and the coaching and technology industry to understand.
Thank you. So what are your favorite ways to use AI with your clients?
Right now, I do 3 things almost every time. I have an in-between session tool that I use that's designed around the specific unique pieces of my particular coaching approach. And full disclosure, there's 2 things I'm going to disclose here that I don't think I've said publicly about this particular tool. I built the first version of this tool in 2019 for 100% mercenary reasons. I wanted to gather all of the new insights that a client had over the life of an engagement into one document so that I could hand that document to the client at the end of the engagement for purposes of getting rehired to coach them on a new topic. That was my sole motivation for this particular tool, was to...
And did it work?
It did. It did. When I deploy this particular tool with coaching clients, my rehire rate is near 100%.
Is it still?
Oh yeah, over 7 years, yes. It's over 93%. Now, the critical distinction is I don't use it when we haven't completed what we came to for the first time. So I don't use it to extend an engagement. What I do is I use it to invite a client to think about a new engagement on a different topic. And it may not happen right away, but I want to plant that seed at the end of the engagement. Hey, there's always more we could do. So that's the first thing. I have a reflective tool that I really like. Our friends and colleagues, Jimmy Beth Myers and Yannick Jakob, challenged me on something I was doing about a reflective tool that I really like. I use that for myself pretty regularly. I have started extending that to my clients. That's a similar tool to my clients. That's not getting engaged much, but maybe. I do also share those reflections with my supervisor, truthfully, and my mental health counselor. I share those. I share some of those things as well. So that's me choosing to share that, though. Those are my main ones. And then I've recently started experimenting with an onboarding process. Not so much onboarding before coaching, but to screen potential coaching clients based on an early inquiry. Like I got one, I don't know, right before I went on vacation. And I sent this guy, this is somebody I've known for years. I sent him this onboarding tool. And he emailed me after working through it going, you know what, as I realized, I don't think you're the right guy. And I said, perfect, it's working.
Very good.
He's like, wow, that wasn't the response I was expecting. Well, that's why I sent it to you, is because when you reach out to me, I make a commitment to everybody that reaches out to me for coaching that if I'm the right person, I'll serve them as well as I can. If I'm not the right person, I will help them find the person who is. And I'm thinking this onboarding tool could be really useful in that kind of thing. So those are my 3 favorite use cases right now.
Thank you. So what do you think, like for other coaches, what does it actually cost you as a coach staying ignorant about technology? Not philosophically, I mean like more practically in terms of client outcomes and professional relevance.
I'm going to say 2 things. One is you are leaving an ability to understand what coaching is capable of on the table that in 2026 may not hurt you that much, but by 2028, you're going to look like a dinosaur. And you know where we see dinosaurs now, don't you? In museums. That's the risk you're taking, is being old, outdated, and extinct, because your skill set will not measure up. Now, here's the other thing, and I don't mean to be doomsday here. I don't mean to be scary. AI is not going away. We have the opportunity to turn it into a strength. That's all I'm suggesting here. Now, here's the part that is potentially embarrassing. If you do not become AI literate, you are going to lose the ability to speak the language that your clients speak. And one of the things that coaches are challenged to do directly is to adapt our language to the language the client is using. And if you are not AI literate, you are going to be putting a barrier between your language and your client's language, because I guarantee you your clients are using it.
And we already know, because we had the hands raised at the Boston conference, I think it was more than 2/3 in the room who said that they have clients coming in with a topic that they discussed already with an AI. And then we have the podcast with Pam Krulitz, who also talks about a story where some of the leaders are coming in, having discussed things with AI. And she knows about AI, so she actually knows on how to navigate that space with the leader. So if you don't, you're not on, we go back to the Augenhöhe principle again.
I've just been playing around with this in the last 3 months, but whether or not my client owns the fact that they are running topics past AI, I will ask directly, so what does your AI tool say about this particular topic? I walk in some ways assuming that they're going to do that. And I think it's 10 or 11 sessions in a row where they've just said, well, it said this. When I threw this in, it said this. And I'm not sure my client's ever been surprised that I would ask that question. But I drop that in pretty regularly in the contracting phase.
And that's important. Mm-hmm. So looking at it a little bit from the lens of responsible AI, and I don't say ethical, so really responsible, what can we do about it and what's available to us and which responsibilities do we need to take as a coach, also with our clients who also work for AI. What does responsible AI actually require, in your opinion?
3 things. Number 1, you have to get educated. You have to get educated. At the risk of a shameless plug, Anthropic is offering free AI certifications right now.
Yeah.
Really good. You have to get educated. Number 2, you have to get comfortable acknowledging that AI input exists in coaching. It is going to continue to come up. And then number 3, this is where I go off script with a lot of other coaches. It needs to be more present in your written contracts and in your onboarding process. The thing we must avoid, hear me clearly, coaches, we cannot look past this. Clients can never be surprised that you are using an AI tool, never, ever, under any circumstances. You must disclose. I would say to you that should be in your written agreement. I ask my coaching clients to initial the AI clause in my written agreement, telling them what they're doing. Now, they can opt out, but if they opt out, then you can't use it. The client can never, ever be surprised. And then I also, in this day and age, advocate for the written agreement is not enough. You absolutely must include that in the onboarding process. Go over it again. Talk about it, because the client can never be surprised.
Or in the regular contracting, even at the beginning of the session.
I don't mind that.
I like to do that, to be honest, depending on what the client comes in with. Like, are you still comfortable using this tool today? But they might have a vulnerable topic.
And I'll be humble and vulnerable here. I probably don't have good enough habits in that regard. So I probably need to take that comment very seriously and say, okay, what do I need to say? What habit do I need to build for my clients to continue to give them the permission? One of the things that goes back to the olden days of coaching was one of the core rules was the client is always at choice. And this really applies in this situation.
And that's beautiful, because it's about giving people the choice and the possibility to say no or yes. And you as a coach should also have the possibility to say no if your client brings in something that you don't feel comfortable doing with an AI system, because they sometimes bring their own ideas, with them on what they would like to try out.
Well, that's a beautiful moment, isn't it? When the coach says, you know what, I want to be especially mindful of your privacy here, and I'm not comfortable coaching you with these tools running in that moment. That language, I think, is important. I'm not comfortable coaching you using these tools is very different than saying, I don't think we should use this because you're talking about something sensitive. So really pay attention to that. I think that matters.
Yeah, I love that. So let's close the session, because we're unfortunately coming to an end, on a more human note, because it's the edge of human and AI. Someone in our reflection after the NYU, and you've been unfortunately on holidays, mentioned the Viva la Humans quote at the end. So staying human in a world being reshaped by AI, What does that mean to you?
Well, I'm a beach guy. There are a few things I love more than taking a walk down the beach. And one day earlier this week, I was walking through the edge of the water in the Atlantic Ocean. And I just noticed all the things my feet were feeling. I could feel the sand. Every once in a while, I would step on a shell or something. There'd be a little bit of a jab. I could feel the water rolling over my feet. I could feel the sunshine and the warmth of the sunshine. There was a breeze blowing at the same time. I was noticing the rays in the water just 4 feet away from me and wanting to pick my step carefully. And all of those physical sensations came at once. And this is as far as my somatic skill set goes. I think to stay human in the age of AI means giving ourselves permission to feel all those things simultaneously. Because the simultaneous versus single stream processing, I think, is one of the things that separates humans from AI tools at this moment. We can bring in all of that at once and build a beautiful whole that is unique to us. And that input leading to uniqueness, I think, keeps us grounded in a way that technology can't do yet. Maybe someday, but can't do yet. Input leading to uniqueness, I think, is how you stay grounded, both personally and in your coaching conversations.
Thank you. I got goosebumps now. So this is a perfect note to end the session for today. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for spending your first working time with me on this podcast.
Well, pleasure's mine. This is fun. One thing I appreciate about you, Rebecca, is I never know where the conversation is going to go, which is just how I like it.
Thank you. See you next time. I've had a few conversations on this show about AI and what it means for human work. But I don't think I've had one quite like this. What stays with me is the humility finding. Jonathan told me that all his wild, amazing success clients challenged with the AI topic over the last years had one thing in common: a deep, fresh humility. Something like the willingness to say, I don't know, and to genuinely light up when things don't go to plan. I think about that in the context of AI, in the context of coaching, in the context of this whole strange moment we're currently living in together. The people who will move through it with grace are not the ones with the answers. They are the ones most genuinely curious about the questions and are able to accept the state of not knowing. That's it for now. And don't forget to follow Jonathan on LinkedIn for his Augenhöhe challenge.
That's it for today's episode of The Edge of Human and AI, a Viva la Coaching podcast. If this conversation opened something up for you, the best thing you can do is share it. Send it to a colleague, a client, a fellow coach, anyone who's asking the same questions you are. The more of us standing at this edge, the better the conversation gets. Follow us on your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode. And come find us at vivalacoaching.com, where you'll find resources, community, and conversations you won't find anywhere else. We'll be back next week with another voice from the edge. Until then, come stand with us at the edge.